Boom, we're live.
Hell yeah.
Glorious morning. Chop, how are we doing today?
Glorious morning, Pepito. Doing very well. The sun is shining. Bitcoin's made new all-time highs today. Can't complain
Send it,
at all.
send it much higher.
Send it much higher. I reckon we're going to get a scam downwards again for a little bit, though. I'm hoping. I want to buy some more before we kick off, but we'll see. I rarely get what I want in the markets, so.
Yeah, I mean, do we ever? Hopefully one day. No, but it's
Hopefully.
an amazing. Another. I mean, we've made it now 4 in a row. So a little tap on the back to us for keeping that
They
streak alive for now.
haven't kicked us off air yet.
Yeah, we haven't been banned from Twitter. Or anything, so working well. And no, I'm super excited today. We talk about a bit of an ecosystem that a bunch of Pythians like and enjoy. So that should be fun. And we have Gidwell from Suilend, and a few other projects on Sui. Quite building the DeFi suite, if you're asking me. But we'll have him chat about it, tell us a bit more on what they're doing. I think you can do a bunch. I did some fun stuff yesterday just by myself, launching my own LST, but we'll see.
Oh, cool.
Do what you want with this information, and then Gidwell is here, so I guess we'll just we just won't waste any time.
Hop right in.
GM, sir.
GM, let me just at least add my PFP, so it's not boring to look at me when you guys hear me speak.
So you can just shield the rootlets now.
Oh, how did you know?
Just a wild guess.
Upload.
In the meantime, I'll drop this in the Discord so we get Pythians jumping in as well.
Oh, yes. Good call. We've got poker right after this as well. Actually, an hour after we go off air, we've got Pythian poker to jump into, which I'll be playing tonight as well. We've got that to look forward to.
This is a packed day.
Packed schedule, yeah.
It is. How you doing, Gidwell? Welcome to the Beyond the Price stream.
Cool. So this is episode 4. Is this a new thing for you guys?
It is number 4. We were just saying we haven't been kicked off the main Pyth Twitter yet, so we must be doing something right to be at number 4 and still kicking.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me as an early guest of what I imagine will be many, many shows.
Let's hope so. Our pleasure. Thanks for coming on. Might be a good idea to just kick us off with a small introduction for yourself, Gidwell, and what you're doing on Sui. That'd be great.
Yeah. So my name is Gidwell. I'm the head of growth for Suilend. Been with the team since we launched Suilend about a year ago. I got started in crypto many years ago, like just as a user. But really, my first real job was probably with OpenSea when I joined pretty early on in early 2021. So just as like the NFT bull was kind of kicking off, and so I kind of saw everything from ground zero there. I am like a recovering ETH maxi. So I used to be like a .eth, bulltard. But obviously this cycle, things have changed. I met Rooter, the founder of Suilend, now Save. Many years ago, we were both living in Taiwan at the time. And then, basically at that time, I wasn't even into Solana at all because like I mentioned, I was kind of focused on ETH stuff. But basically reconnected after I left OpenSea and kind of told me about what they're building on Sui. And I, to be fair, didn't even know that much about Sui at the time, right? I knew it kind of had come out of Facebook, right? The original team. And so obviously the past year has been kind of crazy. We've released 3 different protocols: Suilend, Spring Sui, Steam. We have our very awesome Rootlets community. And it's been quite a ride.
That's awesome. I know a bunch of Pythians have eaten pretty well off that Rootlets mint, which we got access to in the Pyth Discord. So that's
right.
Really cool. I'm curious to know What attracted you to Sui? What was the pitch like to get you over to Sui and the transition from being an ETH maxi into a Sui connoisseur?
Yeah, I think it's just like over time, like I think there's a bit of I'll admit, like I was just like a bit closed off to new ideas. I think a lot of the part of the reason was a lot of the people that initially onboarded me were very much like .eths, and they were very much early into crypto. Like I'm talking about people who my buddy who he got into crypto in like 2013. He bought it from Charlie Shrem for $40 over this like long email thread. So like I really respected the opinion of a lot of these people onboarding me. So initially I was just kind of like, oh, what they say is right. But obviously, like in this past cycle, you've just seen like consumer apps and adoption like going way beyond just ETH, and all of that just comes down to like UX and wallets and products being good. And I think Sui definitely kind of is a leader there, right? They recently rebranded the wallet, right? The Slush wallet. It's very easy to use. I assume Pepito, when you were experimenting the other day, you can testify to this. It's pretty smooth. So I think when it comes down to UX now, like it's pretty neck and neck with Solana, if not better. So the pitch for me, I think, like always, like when I was working at OpenSea, and then for a little time I was working on we acquired Gem, right, which was the NFT marketplace aggregator, and so always like having like the pleasure to work on these teams are really focused on product. Yeah, it was a great opportunity to join Suilend. The team has a really good rep for building like an awesome lending protocol, right, from their time on Solana. And yeah, I think we've kind of continued that tradition and perhaps even excelled at it on Sui.
What were the three projects and products that you're working on again?
Yeah, so Suilend is our kind of our main bread and butter, our lending protocol. You can deposit and borrow. You can do all sorts of basically simple strategies there. And then our next one was SpringSui, which we view as a public good. And basically what that is it's a LST protocol. So it allows projects to create their own LSTs. And we actually made this permissionless recently. So it's been very exciting to see many projects, create LSTs. And obviously our main the largest LST on Sui is SSui, which is our LST. And so, yeah, there's like two parts of SpringSui. And then the most recent one is Steem. Steem is our super fluid AMM. And yeah, Steem is a capital efficient AMM. So what it does is it auto deposits idle liquidity back into Suilend to generate additional yield. So if you're the user, you're LPing, you're getting two streams of income, one from the fees off trading, and then one from the additional APR you're getting on that redeposited liquidity in Suilend.
Okay, the LST one is really interesting to me. Does a product like that exist anywhere else in crypto? As far as I'm aware, there isn't anything else where you can create your own LST derived off your.
So Sanctum on Solana probably is the one that people would most commonly think of. So they probably paved the way there. But yeah, we're the ones to do it on Sui. So yeah, it's by no means like a new thing, but like I think yeah, we've continued doing it on Sui.
I mean, from using yesterday and actually, I guess, launching my own little Pepito Sui LST. I mean, the experience is amazing. I mean, I was kind of shocked, like, I mean, almost like, oh, okay, what just happened? What did I do? I mean, super. I mean, and I think your experience across the product is amazing because even on Spring Sui, when I just swap for Sui for another LST, I can click and directly deposit into Suilend. So it's a bunch of like of clicks and actions that you take away from me to having to flip websites, protocols, connect wallets, confirm transactions, which I think you guys have been doing. I mean, amazing. And on the Spring Sui side, I think the Sui is likely the biggest LST on Sui. And do you have any permissionless ones that are either on the funny side or from people that just say, hey, I'm launching my own, that have done really well recently?
Let me see if I look on SpringSui. So if you go on SpringSui, I don't know if like I'm able to share my screen. Is that allowed?
You should be able to. Yeah, okay. It is allowed.
Share screen. Okay, so this is Spring Sui. So yeah, if you come in, basically like obviously like the way LSTs work, right? Very simplified explanation, but you can secure the network by staking natively. So let's say if I have Sui, if I wanted to stake it to Sui, I can do that. I can do that in the wallet actually natively, but then it's like kind of stuck there. So LSTs unlock that liquidity by staking it and issuing like kind of like a coupon that I can use elsewhere, right? So that's how LSTs work, right? So if I want to stake Sui, let me just do. Oops. Wait, hang on. It's we. Okay, there. So, yeah. So it shows that I just staked, and then now I have SU. So it's pretty easy. And then yeah, we have a bunch of other LSCs here. So we've worked with many partners. Oh my god! So Ika is a partner of ours. They're having their TGE soon, and like I did not realize that they had like this much Sui that they've been using in their pre-TGE marketing and leveling up their NFTs. And so they're probably like that's probably the largest we've seen so far, obviously besides ours. Yeah. So in terms of like funny ones, I think like most of them, like the big ones, are not like funny. They are being like well thought of and utilized, right? I mean, I know. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Here's the famous one. We gotta
Benito.
yeah, we gotta bump up those rookie numbers, huh? We might need to drop the CA so people can know to stake. But Pepito, when you were saying when you set this up, you set a performance fee, right?
I believe so. I mean, we could just create one right now, and you walk us through the creation process.
We could. I need a logo then.
I mean, what do we want to do? Do we
I've
have a
got hang on.
rootlet Sui?
No, well, I kind of did it just to stop people from making that one. We don't want people to like abuse certain names.
Fair enough. I reckon I can find a Zarpithia logo that we could potentially use.
Yeah, if you want to send me something, I can do it.
Okay. I'll forward it to while I do that, Gidwell, for those who aren't really familiar with liquid staking and its functionality and why somebody might be interested in creating one, would you mind giving us a little bit of an explainer to the benefits of it and the utility?
Yeah, so I have a doc that kind of goes into this.
I've just sent it to you, Pepito. I don't have Gidwell on Telegram, so you can forward it to him.
Yeah, so like so one of the cool things that basically we helped kind of move the needle on in Sui is prior to us making Spring Sui, LSTs on Sui did not have instant unstaking, and so what that meant was you had to have a lot of like LSTs in AMM pools, right? Because there was like unstaking period, so which means that you wouldn't have access to immediately. That means that there's also a chance for depegging, which is a risk. So on Solana, I believe it's like 3 days, right, to unstake, but you can unstake instantly because there's these AMM pools, right, that are supporting that liquidity. So basically, we helped. We did a few SIPs to enable instant redemption of LCs for Sui, and so this means that you can unstake the whole supply of SSui at any time instantly, and so this makes depegging basically like impossible. So it's more efficient use of liquidity and safer. And then as I was mentioning earlier, this is kind of the flowchart for how it works. So the user mints SSui with Sui, goes into the smart contract, and then it's delegated to a validator, right? So Suilend has a validator. There's a few validators. And then if you want to unstake, you just redeem Sui with SSui. So it's pretty like straightforward. And obviously the benefit of this is, not only are you like I said, you're freeing up that liquidity, but if you go to Suilend, we actually have a section. So some LLCs, like these are kind of more of like our partners, right? Like we know these LLCs are serious projects. So you can actually use them in DeFi. So you can get 70% LTV. So you can borrow up to 70% against the value of your SUI. So actually, there's quite a few different strategies. Like, oh yeah, these guys. This is FL SUI by FlowX. They're a aggregator on SUI, and so they have some additional rewards. But basically, yeah, you could loop. You could do something like where you loop, right? So you stake SUI or LST. You then borrow SUI, and then against that SUI, you swap it back to SUI, and then you deposit it again. And so that's a simple DeFi strategy called looping. So you're adding a little bit of leverage, but because it's SUI and SUI, there's not that much risk. This is actually quite like a reasonably safe strategy to do for those who are kind of looking to maximize their APR. So yeah, that's one thing you can do with LSTs.
Was this looping allowed a while back? Because I think I remember trying to do a bit of that a few months back, and I think I was got a message saying, "Hey, we see that you borrow and resupply."
So it's allowed on certain pairs. So SUI LSTs are allowed. For things like stables, it's not allowed, just because that is it's not allowed based by the incentive plan given forth by the foundation. So I think there's like pros and cons, but I think what that means is like you're having a much more like healthy actual utilization of the liquidity, right? Rather than just kind of like vanity metrics. So certain pairs you don't allow that. Bitcoin to Bitcoin is allowed. So right now, yeah, that's another way you could also leverage, right? And I think people are very excited about BTC Fi these days, especially on SUI. So that's another looping strategy you could do. So I've got the file now. So am I making Choppa SUI? Is that, or Chop SUI? What should we call it?
Chop suey, that's good. I like that.
Okay.
I am a System of a Down fan.
Oh, wake up.
Chop suey, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we've entered our name. So there's basically like a naming convention. So we kind of enforce it. So basically, it'll be Chopstick SUI will be like the full name. Let's say this gets to 1 million TVL. You want to list on CoinGecko. They're going to ask you to adhere to this naming convention, and then the ticker will be Chop SUI.
Let's change that name to Zarp, because that's not my profile picture. We'll make it a bit more coherent.
How do I spell that?
ZARP.
Zarp.
Yeah, perfect.
But then you still want the symbol to be Chop SUI?
No, do Zarp too. Chop suey is just
okay.
Coincidence.
Okay, and then so yeah, you can pick your validator. So Suilend by default. And let's see. Oh wow. Okay, this is new.
Quite a few validators.
You can enter description. Yeah. So Zarp SUI is the best. Okay. So basically, there's the different fees you can put in. So the staking fee, we recommend putting 0, just because it doesn't make sense to add friction for the user to stake. And then there's a minimum unstaking fee of 2 basis points. And then if you wanted to add a performance fee, you would add it here. So 10% is kind of what we suggest. You could go higher, but we don't really recommend that unless you're offering like incentives. So some projects have added like meme coins for additional APR.
What is a performance fee, Gidwell?
So let's say this is a fee taken off the total staking yield. So let's assume, for simplicity's sake, that SUI is yielding 3% APR. If you put in a 10% fee, you'd be getting 0.3% of that.
Okay.
As the LST owner. Yeah.
Right.
And then yeah. So it's a really cool way for projects to like have this like recurring revenue, off something that's more sustainable than, let's say, a meme coin, right? So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we actually allow for a multi validator support. So let's say you really like Suilend, but you also like this other project. You can actually split it 50-50. So if you want to do that, you can do that here. But yeah, basically that's it. So if everything's ready to go, you just go click create LSD.
That's
should
amazing.
work.
That's a really simple process.
Yeah. In theory, it should work. I don't know why it's not working.
We're
It's
all
like
working
someone-
in
Okay,
theory.
I don't think anybody's going to be using Zarp Sui anytime soon.
It might be because I was on the wrong wallet, but now if I disconnect, I might have to redo it. Okay, but basically, let's just say if this was working as it should, you just create the LST and you would sign 1 or 2 transactions, and then it's done. And then you'd have to wait like 10 minutes, and then it would show up like Pepito's just showed up the other day. And then voila, that's basically it. So
That's really cool.
Pepito's securing the network. Don't worry.
yeah.
I love it. How you're wearing many hats, Kidwell, across 3 projects. How are you managing all of this personally? There's a lot going on for you.
Yeah, you know, yeah, they don't lie, right? When the job description says like terminally online.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, I think it's okay though, just because we're a pretty async and like lean team. So we do like everyone kind of does stuff async. For me, it's you just have a schedule where you using stuff like Typefully, you just schedule content. Sometimes today was, for example, was quite hectic. We there's stuff going on, but yeah, I think it kind of ebbs and flows. I think we're also just like in an interesting part of the market where there is stuff going on, but it doesn't feel like we're in like peak NFT bull mania like we were in like 2021, right? So yeah, I think I don't think I could be doing like late nights waiting for mints and stuff like I used to.
No, these quiet market periods are a bit of a blessing sometimes.
Yeah,
you don't have to, you're not pulling all nighters and going red eye for 20-hour days or anything like that. I'm curious to know your thoughts on why. So Sui's gotten quite a bit of mind share over the past 3-ish months. Just anecdotally on my end, the community has been really excited about it on Pith's side of things, and I've seen a lot more about Sui on the timeline in comparison to a bunch of other chains that have good stuff going on. I'd love to know your perspective on why that is, what Sui's doing right, perhaps on the community or marketing side of things, or maybe on the user experience side of things, or maybe it's for other reasons entirely separate to that. But I'd love to know why you think Sui seems to be standing out a bit more than other chains at the moment.
Yeah, I think so my personal thoughts are like first of all, they're like really good at supporting partners. So like, projects like ours, we get a lot of good support from the foundation. So I think it's really nice to see that. And that support, comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I think like one thing that it has going right is that they've done really well. It's a kind of a new model, which is like there's all these Mistin tokens, which is really interesting, and it creates a really good flywheel. But they're not just like BS tokens, right? There's actually some really cool utility there. I think something like the Walrus like recent launch is really interesting because it's more of like solving like a B2B problem, but like also like everybody needs storage. And the fact there's this like 2-year, I think it's a 2-year subsidy period. So the cost to host stuff is quite cheap. And so it's a really good opportunity for them to onboard, regular Web2 companies. And they've already started doing this, right? I think a lot of news organizations, is it Decrypt, I think? Like they moved all their stuff over.
Yep.
And so I think there's just like a level of skill there when it comes to like creating these protocols, and then also like the marketing around it, the go-to-market is very strong. And yeah, they've done really well at just like building like very strong community, almost cult-like, which I think you require, right, for any successful L1. So yeah, it could be a mix of those. I mean, I think this is nothing like that unique to what I think. I think this is kind of like what a lot of people would say as well. So yeah, I mean the metrics across the board look pretty good. They've got like people like Raul Paul, right, which are like thought leaders. So a lot of people are tuning in always, right, to what's going on in Sui. And so yeah, and then we're seeing cool more teams like express an interest in like building move apps. So especially recently maybe some of the Move ecosystems are not going so smoothly. So that's an opportunity for like Sui to continue doing what it's doing, right? So
that's cool. I think one of the first things that I noticed when I started using Sui, which coincidentally was about the same time I got a Bluefin airdrop from the Pith Discord, was that the experience not only bridging over to Sui, but doing that whole claim via Bluefin and then going to explore was really fast, really seamless, and there was plenty of things for me to jump right into straight after I had done what I needed to do in Bluefin. I think that's a very underrated aspect of a chain. If there's things that are ready to go for people to interact with and to start playing with, and if they get a decent little airdrop that is going to provide them with, even if it's only a tiny bit of liquidity, but with a little bit of liquidity to play with in the ecosystem, I think that's a huge positive, because I was just left with an overall really good impression after 2 or 3 hours of playing around and exploring.
Yeah, I think like especially like when we started, and this kind of ties into Roulets, right? Like when we started, there was like the wealth effect had not really arrived on Sui. I think it has to some extent now, especially after things like airdrops, like Walrus and whatnot. I think like the average person, if you were active, you probably got like a $500 airdrop from Walrus if you were just like reasonably active on Sui, which is like pretty crazy. Yeah, like when we started, Roulets, so that was like my first project at Suilend. We did a lot of provocative marketing, some of it not intentionally provocative, but just kind of like put it out there. And like one of the lines that we used was, Sui is the new poverty chain. And, because like people were still new to, it's like, I think what I've noticed is like, what's cool about Sui, and also like, it's like a double-edged sword, but it's like, there's a lot of like my peers that I'll meet at conferences or talk to. They're in their early 20s, and maybe some of them are younger. I don't know, but this is like their first cycle. It seems like for a lot of them. So they're very excited about Sui. They'll like defend it, with like their blood. They'll keyboard warriors. They'll go after you or whatnot. And obviously now, like that, the compounding effects of these airdrops, like it's almost like they're even more gung-ho about Sui, right? And so for now, definitely, especially after Roulets, like people in the community there, like, I don't think you can say it's the poverty chain anymore. It's like, maybe more approaching middle class, like GDP, on-chain wealth, right? Still has room to grow, I think, but obviously, if you compare it to stuff like Solana, but some exciting progress there, I think.
Yeah, I love that you call it the poverty chain thing. I think the self-deprecating humor there is great. It sort of makes it accessible for everyone. If you got $5 there, throw it in. There's no problem. Explore. There's things to do. Doesn't matter how much liquidity you've got. That's really cool. I like it.
And I think the bridge, to what I see to some extent between Sui and Solana, where you have, lots of different collaboration. I think latest is Kleinosaurus is going to mint on Sui, its new collection or what it is. I think, probably a bunch of Solana, and myself came from Solana mostly and said, hey, Sui looks cool. Gives me the same vibes in terms of user experience and protocols I use on Solana. Where I think there's some great crossover that I think Sui and you guys typically use very well to kind of bring in some, let's say some, like you said, early 20s or younger that were dabbling around DeFi and crypto on fast chains, and they said, oh, Sui looks cool, looks good here too, so why not go fuck around and find out a bit.
Yeah.
On the poverty chain, that's perfect.
Exactly.
That makes sense. I've got Toddy has echoed a similar sentiment. Peter, you could see a lot of liquidity coming in from Sol, and anecdotally, a lot of our community has bridged over from Solana to play around. I think Walrus and Bluefin, as you mentioned, were really great sort of catalysts to provide a bit of a liquidity effect and wealth effect for people to start exploring on chain. I think that's a really underrated aspect of
and the send airdrop as well.
Adoption. Descent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the pipeline, Gidwell, you've got three different projects. What's on the horizon for them? How are things playing out for the rest of this year, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we have our season 2 ending on Suilend in Steam, so we'll have our upcoming, points campaign ending. There's some cool stuff you could do right now. I think we've got a cool collab with Backpack, so if you use Backpack Wallet with Suilend or Steam, you'll get some additional rewards. It's a really strong way to end season 2, and then we'll have season 3 start. On the product side, yeah, there's still some cool stuff that, again, like we're a lean team. So we are shipping. We'll be shipping probably new features to Suilend, but really our focus right now is on Steam. And so recently, so in addition to making Spring Suite that whole creation flow permissionless, we've also made something similar for Steam. So I'll kind of maybe show you.
Yeah, please
share my screen as well.
What is Steam for those who don't know?
Yeah, so Steam is our AMM product, and like I said, it's a capital efficient AMM. So what's cool is, let's say if I want to go to so USDC. So we actually show that how much is of the liquidity is redeposited back on Suilend for additional yield. So you can see there's a decent amount here.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, really?
Wait,
it's sharing.
Give me a second. I'll add it. Here we go.
You guys can see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, if you go to the APR on a certain pool, actually show how much is being redeposited. Back into Suilend. So these don't look like high amounts, but obviously, imagine if this pool is like a few million. That small amount of APR does count for something. So yeah, we're still we're shipping improvements to this, and so yeah, expect to see a lot of improvements here. I think also we recently launched, like I said, the ability to launch a meme coin. So if I want to make Zarp meme Zarp, same kind of thing. I could add an icon.
We've got the pump fun, the sweet pump fun here.
Yeah, you can choose your code asset, and then basically, you can kind of define a lot of parameters here. But essentially, you can create a pool basically very easily. Launch a token and create the pool, and all on Steam. And we've got some cool features coming that way, like anti-sniping, kind of more launchpad kind of features. So I expect to see some stuff there as well. And yeah, to that point where we are hiring more engineers. So if you guys want to, if this agrees with your vision of what you'd like to be working on, we are hiring on the SWE smart contract side. So help us ship faster. We'd love to have more folks join.
What is the meme coin ecosystem look? How does that look like on SWE? I admittedly haven't played around a lot on that side of things.
Yeah, so an app that's pretty cool to use is Noodles. Noodles is one of a few kind of like SWE native deck screeners. And so you can kind of see what's on here, what's trending. I think generally the current there's been quite a few big memes on SWE. I think I don't know which one was first because it might predate my time there, but Blub was one of the original ones, and FUD as well was the original one. FUD had really good content, right, and IP and stuff. Recently, I think probably the strongest one is Lofi. That's been pretty big. They've partnered with us on a bunch of stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff out here. So I recommend using a site like this. You can kind of check out everything, and then you can also trade on here directly. So they have a different. They have they show what's going on the social side too, which that's pretty cool. So cool. Yeah. Yeah. So I think on the meme side, generally it's not as mature, right, as Solana, right? So I think we're not the only team making, launchpad features or making it easier for people to do stuff. But I think so far, we'll see if like Sui is going to become as degen. I think culturally at the moment, I'm not sensing that intuitively. So it'll be interesting to monitor if, more like, undoubtedly like more liquidity is coming to Sui from other chains. So it'll be interesting to monitor if, that develops into, certain, meme coin economies or whatnot. I still think it's still like Sui is still kind of like people are still onboarding. So I think, maybe in a few months or maybe in a year, things would be different. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Toddy's just saying Noodles is a very smooth experience, and apparently they've also built in a portfolio tracker into the website as well.
Oh,
there
yeah.
we
go. I can show that in a second. See.
And on my end, just the onboarding is super easy as well, or to me easier than I'd say Solana, because it's a bit more, the DeFi ecosystem is a bit more constrained to a few apps, or at least that I know of. I'm not too deep in the Sui trenches, but you have a couple of the, Bluefin if I want to trade. I mean, there's a couple others, Sudo and so on, but it's very constrained to, I'd say, 10 to 12 apps, which is super, makes it so much easier to, I guess, choose and do what you want on Sui as a whole.
Yeah, I think like the foundational apps are there, right? So like you need DeFi,
Yeah.
I think, for anything. Like so, between us and you've got a few other lending protocols on the AMM side, right? There's a lot of different protocols there as well. I think like the big thing, right, is like you basically need a strong, firm like DeFi foundation for stuff like gaming and meme coin stuff to take off, and then obviously the foundation is betting big on gaming with Sweet Play. So we'll see how that goes out. I think recently there were a few like the gaming tokens and stuff. It's always a tricky one. Still hasn't been a successful like gaming token launch on Sui. So yeah, we'll have to see.
How is the Sui Play? Have you gotten your hands on that and been able to?
I have
give
not.
it a go?
I was not able to go to Basecamp, so I've got two headed my way. So we'll see.
Oh, nice. Plank was at Sui Basecamp and said the lineup for the Sui Play was basically out the door, and it was a lost cause trying to get in. So it's obviously pretty hyped and quite popular. I'm really keen to see how people receive it when it comes out, because it seems like kind of a no-brainer product in a sense, but also quite a big risk at the same time.
Could you go more into that? I'm just curious why. Like, would love to hear what you think the risks are.
It's hard to execute games on chain. I think it's incredibly hard as it is to create a popular game and to have it played consistently in a way that makes it self-sustaining. And I think an added layer of complexity being blockchain added to that just heightens the difficulty significantly. I think if you're going to build a game, it would have to be, in my opinion, not blockchain at all, or it should all be under the hood and not obvious to anybody that it's blockchain involved. But I could be wrong. I'm really keen to see how games evolve, because at the moment there's no real narrative in the space around games. Nobody's really jumping up and down about them, but I'm sure that will come around again at some stage. I just don't know what that's going to look like and how it's going to evolve.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix of things. I think like I saw a thread recently, like a lot of I was surprised. It's been like a dozen gaming projects that have like closed shop recently. Just like, a lot of these teams raised in ZERP conditions, so like 2021, 2022. So they've run out of runway, or they just weren't able to find traction and stuff. And so, yeah, we'll see. There's still a lot of cool teams building stuff. I think it might just take lower interest rates for people to kind of start speculating on things like gaming and NFTs again in mass at scale. But I do like how the Sui Foundation is like, yeah, it's a pretty ballsy move, and they're just going to go for it and like really double down on gaming. And so it'll be really interesting to see. There's like a few of the ambassadors. They're like playing like the shooting game recently, I think Society or whatever. It looks like fun. I wish I had more time to just play games, but I'm busy working half the time. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I probably play too much. I spend too much time, and I've spent way too much money on like was it EAFC? They've got me really good the past 2 years. So, like, and every year, right, they rug you because you don't own the packs, right? You have to start buying the packs again. But of course, if it was a crypto game, then I could transfer them to the next year. But then they're not going to make any money, right? So,
Yep. That's interesting. So, is there any others that you've got your eye on? There's the shooting game. Anything else that's
I
on
haven't.
your?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not like a hardcore gamer, so I don't. Just from what I've seen, but I think like the ideal state for these games that they want are like kind of action games, right? Like console-driven action games, stuff that's pretty exciting, not
Yep.
like chess, right? The
Yep.
point is not to play chess on Sweet Play.
Yeah. You want some AAA gaming titles that are going to blow
Yeah,
people out of the water. Yeah.
yeah.
This is feel free to not answer this, Gidwell, but Toddy is asking about the Pokemon rumors and the Sui tie-in. I'm sure you've heard the same rumors that everybody else has.
Your guess is as good as mine. I think some people have alpha. I'm not one of those people when it comes to this.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. I can see it seems like a natural progression from a Pokemon type game going onto blockchain and you being able to own your Pokemon as NFTs and that kind of
I'd
thing.
play. Bring me
I'd play too,
back to
for sure.
my good old young days with the purple Game Boy and those big cassettes, the red
Yeah.
whatever, and yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I'd play
yeah,
it.
I mean,
I'd definitely play it.
they're very good at making these deals. It seems like so.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think that's probably partly why the rumors caught on too. That it's sort of not out of the realms of possibility that people can see that happening. Although it's would be pretty huge.
Yeah, I mean, you've got I think Eric Trump owns Sui, right? You're literally 1 degree. You know, if you could get the Big Daddy to talk about Sui, you show him some Pokemons on the Sweet Play. That's pretty bullish. So
Yeah,
there's an opportunity there. So
for sure. I've got an audience question here for you, Gidwell, from our boy Jeezy. He asked your top NFT project on Sui, and you're welcome to say rootlets, but I'd love to hear anything
yeah.
other than rootlets.
Well, yeah, I'm
It's
obviously a bit
rootlets.
biased. So that,
Yeah,
my PFP, and I think we've got a cool community. I think there's a lot of. I think I like for what people people will dunk on NFTs as being dead, but I think what's been really interesting during my time in Sui is like there's a lot of different communities, and I mean I'd have to look at the numbers, but there is like a lot of like NFT activity, right? It's not the level of like 2021 degeneracy, but there are some cool projects, and so besides us, probably most people like we could look at it on Tradeport because I think most people just don't even know what the marketplace is. So.
Mhm. Do
I'm
you
doing
expect
some.
NFTs to come back, to make a comeback?
I think it just. I would ask like, how do you define a comeback? Like, what does that really mean, right? Like,
Fair
if that
question.
means like PFPs are worth more than the house that I live in, I'm not sure about that. If
Yep.
if it means that like there's obviously like a class of collections like Fidenzas, right, and like a lot of the
Yep.
art block stuff, which I think counts as fine art, and so that will retain value. Like once in a while, you see those trading hands. CryptoPunks, right, recently,
Mhm.
the director of Sui, he like announced he bought one or whatever. That's a level of art, but that's again, I think I'm not surprised. I don't think that's weird. I think some of that is deserving of those those prices. So if you're
Yep.
asking me about like the card, like the flipping level, I don't know. It may happen in spurts. I just don't know if it's going to happen to the degree of the speculation that we saw this cycle with meme coins. I
Yep.
mean, it'd be interesting, but yeah, if we look at this trade port, so Sui's like main marketplace, and so yeah, if we rank by market cap, so Prime Machines, yeah, so they're number one now. They're yeah, we're good friends of ours. So they have a really strong community. This is that project Ika that they're having their token come out soon, so that's a big one. And there's us. We've got some other ones here. People have been like buying a lot of Doonies recently. I have totally dropped that. Fuddies is like one of the OG ones. Yeah, so there's like different ones. I guess I would expect to see more gaming stuff come out. There's one project, Anima Labs, so they have some of the cosmetic items and stuff. So I would expect that to pick up a lot more if gaming is going to be a thing, right? So, but yeah, if you're looking for like a community to join, there's a bunch of those on Sui. You know, we're one of them, and so yeah, I think there's definitely stuff to do with NFTs on Sui. And like the cool thing about Sui is like not every project is kind of like implemented this, but like a lot of the NFTs they're dynamic or they can be made dynamic. So you could do certain DeFi actions, or maybe you play a game and you would level up your NFT essentially. And so
Okay.
So that's like one cool thing that we've seen different iterations of, but I think there's definitely a lot of room to experiment there.
Sure. Does Rootlets have any of that going on? Can you tell us a bit about?
So Rootlets is more of like
a
Rootlets is more of like a Sui inscription. So we're burned into the Sui blockchain.
Okay.
And yeah, like so some of the lore around that is like basically we spend like a ridiculous amount of money on the art. And the art, I think to a lot of people, it's very like esoteric. It's like steampunk space pigs, right?
It's very unique.
Basically, yeah. So it's like we actually spend like $200,000 on the art. We hired a very famous pixel artist called Gustavo, and he's like one of the best in his field. And we just kind of went all out. Bruder, our founder, really loved his art, and so part of the reason we got fudded a lot, in addition to our provocative marketing, was like we quote priced the NFT too high at the time. So it was like $60 or like 60, 70 Sui, and the public mint was like 100 Sui, and so people were fudding us like, "Oh, you come from Solana, you're trying to rug us on Sui, how dare you?" But yeah, it obviously had like a pretty cool run up, and it's still holding pretty good value. So, the peak was around December, and we have total of 3 airdrops coming with our NFTs. So one's been given out already, another one's coming up soon, and then but basically the whole meme is like we just say it's like good art though. So
yeah, I like it.
If you're into it,
I'm a big fan of the art.
Yeah.
I have a soft spot for pixel art. Something about it is very attractive to me. I like it a lot.
Exactly.
The old internet
is Exactly.
I love it. I've just about exhausted all of my questions. Pepito, do you have anything else?
I mean, no, I don't think I have anything else. I mean, it was no, yeah, I'm very bullish.
When are we gonna do Pith Sui? When is Pith gonna launch their LSD on Sui?
Oof,
Good question.
I don't know.
Don't know.
I don't have no answer to that.
It takes 5 minutes, so it's very easy, Pepito.
Yeah,
we can get it done now.
He's telling us we have no excuses.
Yeah.
I have a Pepito Sui anyway. I have to manage this big endeavor.
But Chop can manage the Pith Sui. It's super easy. But yeah,
I'll delegate to Chop then.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want that responsibility. Maybe Toddy or Plank or somebody else in the chat can take up the mantle. That's great.
A Pythonian Sui could be cool.
Yeah,
and true. Get the Pythonians to stake their Sui there. That's
not a bad idea. I like that.
All right,
hit up the rest of the founders.
I blurted out an idea. Now anyone can run with it.
Yeah. I have one final parting question for you, Gidwell. We get a lot of people in the Pith Discord, and I think probably in Web3 generally, asking advice on how to get started in Web3, what they should do if they're looking for work, how they can get involved, and what they can do to sort of build themselves up. So I'd like to ask people, what is one piece of advice you could give someone, or you would give to yourself if you were just starting out now in Web3 and wanted to get deeply involved and start working or start creating or building?
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate because I don't have a technical background or anything, but I've been able to work with a lot of like talented people from OpenSea and Suilend and whatnot. Um, I think just nothing's going to really beat like you're going to be primed for success if you actually know what you're talking about. And when it comes to like crypto stuff, there's a lot of stuff that you can be show value and know if you just like actually know what you're talking about. If you're some guy who's new to DeFi or NFTs, there's a lot like that subject matter which you can only learn by using products or buying a meme coin or using a protocol. You can't substitute that knowledge by reading a book. So you have to really experiment and live on chain to some extent. And so that might be include getting rugged a few times because you bought the wrong thing. You didn't know how to read a block explorer, right? Or there's a lot of stuff like kind of just like mistakes were made, but lessons were learned, and like you need to live on chain in some aspect to some degree. I think even if you're if you're non-technical, the amount of jobs that are open are probably a lot smaller, right? There's huge demand for engineer talent, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can't compete on that front and you're like, oh, I don't have any other skills, I think there's a lot of stuff you can learn, and you can know value if you just have experience like living on chain. And that for me as like a reply guy to intern accounts, like I've kind of done all of that. And now with AI, it's so easy to run accounts and do make content. So there's really no excuse to like give it a go. I think anyone now has like a great opportunity to get started. So like it just all it takes is like one cool project, one cool opportunity, and like you really can't get your foot in the door. And that was the case for me. So if you really like this space, you just gotta stick in there, I guess.
I love it. Fantastic answer. Thank you very much, Goodwill. I really appreciate it.
Cool. No, thanks for having me on here. Maybe we'll have to do a round 2 sometime. But yeah.
That'd be great.
When you've got some Pokemon Alpha, you tell us.
Okay.
We can spill the beans here.
Okay, sounds good. That's a deal.
Thanks, Gidwell.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for your time, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks, mate. See ya. All right, I'm prepared this week, Pepito. I've got it ready to go. There we go.
Music off.
Right, jump in. Quick quiz. Oh, sorry, music off. Yes, I muted it on mine. There we go.
Any quick news for the community that we can share this week, or?
Yes, so our Kaito April payouts have all been sent out. We had 50% of the eligible 50 people claim. I'm going to make a public list probably tomorrow, which I will post out. We'll get that posted on the main Pith Twitter. So anybody who's missed out and still hasn't claimed can claim. I think I mentioned it last week, but you get a 1 month grace period where you can still claim. But after that, we're going to put it back into a rewards pool that everybody can, or people who are participating will share in. So if you don't claim and you're still part of the community, there's always an opportunity that's going on. I think that's the main one for this week. Have had plenty going on in the Discord. This week's market chat went off without a hitch, and our boy Jeezy ran another one of his fantastic growth workshops with Philip, the Say community lead, and we had some fantastic feedback on how that went. And Jeez is committed to hosting a whole lot more of those in the coming weeks when we get some guests. So if you have ideas for guests that you would like to see in the growth workshop, please hit up either Jeezy or me or Pepito, and we'll see what we can do about getting that done. But we'll be doing more of those. We've had awesome feedback, and people are really enjoying them. I think that's the main news for the community at the moment. We've got an exciting guest hopefully lined up for next week. I have a forum post going up on the Pith DAO later tonight or early tomorrow morning, which will offer a bit of a hint or a clue. But we did a little bit of a community crowdfunding activity late last year around this, and had a lot of fun with it. And we are the only community that's managed to pull it off in the space. So it's quite exciting, and everybody's pretty excited about this product in question, but I won't leak it just yet, just because we're not locked in, and I don't want to speak too soon. But I'm looking forward to it. If we actually manage to pull it off next week, it will be really big, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, I mean, you got me hyped this morning when you sent me that message, and I was like, oh shit, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
very cool. No, and I have one last, I guess, ask or news for the chat and the Pythians in here. If you haven't, go on YouTube and subscribe to the Pit Network channel. You might have seen the teaser yesterday, but I guess we're launching a bit of a new video content podcast series with Big Boss Man Mike. We will be talking to some big brains from the Pit Network ecosystem and a bunch of data providers that bring on their first-party data to the network. And so we'll have tomorrow. Good shot. I didn't spell the right day, but yeah, go on there. We'll have the full episode live very soon. We'll be posting on Twitter and stuff to let you know. But very exciting. I was backstage of this chat, and I mean, I was kind of quite blown away by the content and everything. So super interesting to get in the heads of big trading firms, institution, and so on. So that's what we're doing with this series now.
Cool. Very cool. I jumped the gun on our quiz, but we're coming up to the end of the hour, and I like to keep these streams tight. So we'll roll on through. I hope you're paying attention. These are some. I tried to make these difficult, but some of them aren't very difficult, I think. But that was a really good crash course on the Sui ecosystem there from Gidwell. I wasn't expecting to go through all of the NFT platforms and a bunch of other dApps that they've got going on there that I actually wasn't aware of. So that was really cool.
I mean,
no name.
I'm quite a fan of Sui as a whole and user. So
yeah, me too. Me too. Everybody in the community has been high on them for a long time. So I'm glad we managed to do that, and it was a bit of a run through for everybody. It's very nice.
And it's very, I mean, the user experience, I think they learned a lot from Solana, where Suilend is a bit of a, the save of Sui. But even on the airdrops and so on, as you touched upon, I mean, you ate very well on a bunch of these projects, serious projects that launch tokens and that give really good allocations and awesome ways to claim and use directly. So I think they did really well on that and probably learned a ton from what sometimes went wrong on Solana airdrops and claim stuff. But I mean, they just nailed it out of the park.
Yeah, I think that they probably take a lot of the learning from the Solana phone as well. I would assume that'll be applied pretty heavily to what they've got going on with the Sui Play device as well. I think No Name mentioned it in the chat, but expecting gaming airdrops for anybody who's owning the Sui Play device. I think that's a pretty reasonable odds bet if that's something you're interested in. I actually don't know if the Sui Play device is still up, can still be bought, or if it's sold out or not yet. If anybody in the chat happens to know, I'd like to know, or hit me up in the Discord later.
Oh, I didn't know this. Now the quiz, it's like we all got the same time, and it's fastest win.
Yeah, I played around with it a bit. This is, I think it's a better system. Keeps everybody on their toes.
You gotta be piff fast if you want to win now.
Yeah, that's right.
Applying speed to everything. Boom. Yeah, because the timed round were kind of weird, let's say, or you could answer a bunch of questions multiple times and game the system. Jesus,
I'm glad this one. I'm glad this one happened to be. I randomed the order of the questions. It's funny that this one ended up being last. Oh, nice. 5 people. 5 people know how to Google quickly.
It's the do I go fast and take my chance for first place, but likely miss,
Yeah.
or do I take some points home? Damn, I feel like Todd is always at the top of these things.
He's a good listener, Toddy. That shows.
Nice,
That shows.
nice work.
Nice one, Toddy. Let's get you some IAs in the Pith Discord. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
I mean, we have 1,900 people in here, so thank you all
Hell
for
yeah, I think
coming.
that's our biggest
Once
so far.
again, yeah, the all-time high. But we're getting another one next week. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
actually,
definitely. Definitely.
All right, guys. Chop. Thanks for your time.
Absolute pleasure, Pepito. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
We'll
awesome.
see you same time next week.